Major funding for this program provided by the Moving Image Trust Fund. Additional funding for this program provided by the Arkansas Agriculture Department.
Hello, I'm Tony Brooks, and this is Agri Arkansas. Today, public service takes a turn on the farm, getting kids back in touch with where their food comes from at summer camp, and a primer on microgreens from Chris Hiryak of Little Rock Urban Farming. Our guests, Emily English with Arkansas Garden Corps and Douglas Knight with the Camp Mitchell Agricultural Project. Arkansas Garden Corps is an AmeriCorps program with a mission to promote school and community gardens in an effort to increase environmental awareness and sustainable agriculture practices in Arkansas communities. Take a look.
That's a concern that we have in Arkansas about who's going to grow our food. Where is it going to come from? Who's going to grow the food that sits on our plate every day?
I'm going to make these into like demonstration plots.
Arkansas Garden Corps is a statewide AmeriCorps service member program that places individuals in school and community gardens across the state. So we support those programs as they deliver nutrition education, as they increase access to garden-grown produce, as they build sustainability for gardens around volunteer networks, gathering support from the community through donations and fundraising, and we support them as they maintain and expand gardens.
So those will be fun.
As part of the Childhood Obesity Prevention Research Program, Arkansas Garden Corps began and grew out of a research study, a traditional school garden research study. And as we built those gardens and began to support them in schools across the Delta, we realized that schools really need a dedicated, committed individual to help them launch those programs, get them grounded, and build them towards sustainability. And so we approached AmeriCorps, the Arkansas Service Commission, and requested their help and assistance, and they have been supporting us since 2012. AmeriCorps is a national service program, and it really encourages and creates a space for individuals to give back to their community. Through a kind of a mentored, lived volunteer / work experience, service members serve communities, they serve individual organizations as they're trying to address a community need. So Arkansas Garden Corps service members come to us because they have an interest in feeding their community, learning how to garden if they don't already know how to, learning how to deliver nutrition education in a garden-based setting. A lot of our service members are interested in community development and community organizing, using gardens as the mechanism to do that.
I hadn't really intended to do a service here, but it worked out, and I've had a really great experience with Arkansas Garden Corps. We get to do a lot of good for our jobs, and that's a really rewarding way to spend 40 hours a week. Every Garden Corps service member is assigned to a site, and my site is Tricycle Farms, so I'm there for 1,700 hours over the course of a year, and so that works out to pretty much full time. So I spend a lot of time in the garden, as you might expect. Right now we're planning and planting, and I've got a lot of seedlings going in our hoop house. And I also spend a lot of time with volunteers, because since I'm the only designated person at the farm to be in the garden, it means I need a lot of help. So we have a lot of volunteers coming through, and I spend a lot of time with them. So I get a lot of volunteers from the university. I know when all of them have a paper due and what their major is. So I get to meet a lot of people in the community, and we spend time together in the garden. I'm also about to do some cooking classes with some little kids, so that'll be fun, and teaching them how to use cheap and nutritious foods to make food for their families and for themselves.
Since we began, 68 individuals have served 32 service sites all across the state in 18 different cities, and those service members have put in more than 92,000 hours. And our service sites range from nonprofit organizations, community-based organizations, to schools and school districts, to municipal governments, and even state agencies sometimes. Our Garden Corps service members are trained at each service site in addition to being trained by us and some of the hands-on garden experience. And then they spend 1 year of service, generally either in a full-time or part-time role.
Plant these turnips.
Nice.
And,
So I'm an Arkansas Garden Corps service member, and day-to-day activities, I serve in a garden in Clarksville at the University of the Ozarks, and I'm helping to develop a neighborhood garden, coordinating the volunteers, working with local food pantries and the local school system, and providing nutrition education for the community. It's really great to just see people connect with their food and to see people connect to the environment and to each other when they're out in a garden, you know, whether they're actually in the garden planting something or we're just talking about food, to just draw kind of a full circle around everything and instill a sense of whole being and well-being with them.
So service members are paid a small living allowance, and then if they finish their term of service, which is a certain number of hours based on full-time or part-time status, they receive an education award from the federal government. It's called a Siegel Education Award, and it's an incentive for them to finish their term, but also a way for them to pay off school loans or go back to school. Our service members have gone on to do all kinds of different things. Found out that 61% of our service members desire to pursue careers in the nonprofit sector, and 51% of them want to go into careers in agriculture, which is exciting. We know that Garden Corps service members have combined their experience with their education award, gone on to grad school. We know that they have used their AmeriCorps experience and their Arkansas Garden Corps experience to flesh out a resume that may not have had kind of full-time garden or nutrition education experience on it, and that's launched them into careers that they might not have been able to do beforehand. So that's been exciting. And we really see that it's given them a perspective about being outside full-time, living in a rural community, working within a school environment, which comes with all its own structure and hurdles. We know that community organizing is hard, and unless you're in it full-time, you never really see the politics and the ins and outs of that kind of stuff. We're really working towards trying to create a career path for individuals who want to be garden-based educators, who want to both feed their community and educate their community about where their food comes from. Last year alone, our service members harvested over 20,000 pounds of food, 30% of which went to charitable organizations and food pantries. I think Arkansas Garden Corps contributes towards our next generation of farmers in Arkansas. We provide a space and place for individuals to gain some skills around growing food and serving their community. And that's a concern that we have in Arkansas about who's gonna grow our food. Where is it gonna come from? Who's gonna grow the food that sits on our plate every day? And the more we can do to harness that energy and catalyze this group of people who really, really, really want to do that, I think the better off we will be as a community, as a state, and our kids too.
Every summer, thousands of Arkansans send their children off to summer camps. One summer camp located on Petit Jean Mountain gives kids a true farm experience. Let's take a closer look now at the Camp Mitchell Agricultural Project.
Okay, so while we're waiting for breakfast, let's go over a quick little fun song real quick, all right? All right, so repeat after me. Repeat after me. Big fish.
Camp Mitchell is a camp and retreat center of the Episcopal Diocese of Arkansas. The agricultural component of Camp Mitchell is called the Camp Mitchell Agricultural Program, and what we do is we try and keep a garden growing year-round so that anybody who comes to Camp Mitchell can get out in the garden and experience their food on another level.
Bang it on the window. 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 All right, see, it's easy, but every time we do it, it's fast.
We really just want to get people involved in their own food as much as possible in any way that they want to. We have chickens, we're about to get goats. We've been growing shiitake mushrooms for a couple years, and we grow a very big variety of herbs and flowers and vegetables here. And we just try and get everybody involved in any part of that process that they're willing to. Rinse them good with your hands, get most of the dirt off. That's all we're looking for. We just don't want to dirty the kitchen up.
I've been coming to camp since I was a little kid. And now I work here as a sustainability coordinator, which basically just means I work on the farm. I am the bridge between the summer camp and the farm, and my job is to integrate the farm into camp life and to make the campers excited about it. Okay guys, you can put the radishes in this wheelbarrow. And we do farm chores and we talk about the farm and tell them what we kind of got going on. Like for this week with the high school kids, what we want to do is put together an entire meal just with stuff from the farm. So like eggs from the chickens, honey from the bees, hopefully milk from the goats, and then just whatever produce we have and cook it together and eat it together. And they love it. Most kids who do it love it. It's just something new that they don't often get to do, I think, and it's a new way to interact with food. And we get a lot of good feedback from the parents too, from kids who go home and they're like, we harvested honey this week, it was so cool.
I think I've kind of lost count. I've been here since Middle Air Camp, and I think the first year I came, it was like their first year for the farm, and so when I got here, it was like I was drawn to it, because you don't really see that in the city. You don't see, you know, going home from school or swim practice or anything like that. You don't see this kind of stuff. And so I saw the chickens and I saw the farm and like where our food starts to, you know, it starts its life, and it was like it called me to it. And so I've chose farming as my special choice every year since, and usually my free choice. It's just a place I love to be, and if I could, I would be here every single day. I think it's an experience that I don't get to see otherwise. You go to Walmart and you grab a salad, or you grab an avocado, or, you know, some cabbage, and it's there. You don't think about where it came from, and this is just eye-opening for me. I mean, I always knew that, you know, food came from the ground, but just to see it in action and grow and take care of it, it was an amazing experience.
There definitely is a separation between our society today and the origin of our food, you know, and I know that because when kids show up and start pulling carrots out of the ground or eating asparagus straight from a garden bed, it's just like a really incredible experience for them. And so you know, it's something new. It's something they've never done before. They've eaten carrots and they've eaten asparagus before, but they, you know, haven't seen this side of it, or they haven't, you know, stood on the ground where it grew, you know, and that's a really powerful experience for a lot of people. The best feedback that I get from kids is, I'm glad that I came to the farm today because we're doing something that matters, you know. Like soccer games matter, and you know, fun is really important for kids, but also I think something our society has really lost touch with these days is the value of work. Kids see the value of work too. They hunger for work that has a purpose that they can understand and they can touch and they can be a part of.
Got it.
Wow.
You know, they want to see the things that they're doing go to a greater purpose, and they really connect with that idea in the garden. They understand that the work that they're doing is going to feed somebody else, maybe even themselves, but also they understand that, you know, weeding the garden beds this month means that there's going to be food growing in it the next month for the next group of campers that come. So they really understand that. And another feedback I get from kids is summer campers will tell me all the time, can I come just live on the farm and work with you like all the time? So that's a really good feedback to receive. Yeah, the biggest thing we can offer at Camp Mitchell is a space to discover more about yourself, to discover more about your neighbors, whether that's chickens or asparagus beds or herbs or microbes in the soil, or the people who are working in the garden with you. It's definitely a journey of discovery, and there's a lot more to be learned in our gardens than just gardening technique and, you know, how to make vegetables grow. There's a lot more to it than that.
I'm only rolling. I will not rock.
Chris Hiryak with Little Rock Urban Farming has an organic crop that is easy to grow, quick to turn around, and packs quite a nutritional punch.
Hey guys, this is Chris at the Little Rock Urban Farming G Street Farm in the heart of the capital city. And today we're in our organic gardens. We're going to talk about microgreens. Microgreens are one of the easiest things to grow and one of the most nutrient-dense food items that we produce here at our farm. There are a number of varieties that you can choose from. Right in front of me, I have amaranth. It's a beautiful red microgreen that we grow. It adds a wonderful color to the different mixes that we produce. We like to grow a mix of brassicas, which are all different types of broccoli, cabbage, and cauliflower. If you like spicy, choose things like red mustard, arugula. And then, of course, we like to add some color. So anything red, ruby red chard, red amaranth, gives it a nice appearance and also a delicious flavor. Microgreen production is one of the simplest things you can do at your home garden. All you need is a shallow tray, some seeds, and some sterile potting mix. It's important to choose the right mix and the right seeds. If you like spicy, choose things like red mustard, arugula. If you like something more mild, choose things like broccoli and cauliflower, even mizuna. These different varieties will allow you to produce an abundance of nutrient-dense food for you and your family and taste delicious. The next thing that we need to talk about is how to put all this together to produce microgreens. So it's very important to get just the right amount of moist potting soil in your trays. We like to use a tray that is 1 inch deep, 10 inches wide, and 20 inches long. And this provides us with just enough medium to produce a high-quality microgreen in about 7 to 10 days. Most potting soil comes compressed and dry, and all of them require you to add some moisture. After you've moistened your potting soil, load your trays evenly. It's really important that you put just the right amount of potting soil evenly across the tray. One question that we regularly get is, do my microgreens need fertilizer? And the answer is no. All of the nutrient requirement is contained within the seeds. Your microgreens will require regular watering, and it's very important to provide even moisture. As the summer heats up, it might require 3 to 4 waterings a day, depending on the heat and temperature. One way to easily check your microgreens is to just gently bend back the tray and assess the moisture level by pushing your finger down in. If the tray appears dry, go ahead and err on the side of watering it again. A little too much water during the summer is a lot safer bet than not watering. So choosing the right seeds and seeding density is really important. For our specific mix, we like to use about 1/4 ounce of seed per tray. But this all depends on the variety that you've chosen and your personal preference. You may decide that you like to use a little more or a little less, depending on the specific microgreen variety you choose to grow. One method of seeding the trays is to shake from the jar. Another method is just to take some seeds out between your index finger and thumb and to place the seeds as evenly as possible. This doesn't have to be perfect. If you get it about right, you're going to produce an abundance of delicious microgreens. So the last step in producing outdoor microgreens is to keep them protected. We like to use an Agribond row cover. We place this over small wire hoops on our 4x8 wooden tables. This allows us to produce microgreens year-round in our organic gardens. So whatever taste, texture, appearance, color you're looking for, there's a microgreen out there for everyone. So get out in the garden and start growing.
Joining us now is Emily English, Program Director with the Arkansas Garden Corps, and Douglas Knight with the Camp Mitchell Agricultural Project. Thank you both for being with us. Emily, let's start with you. Arkansas Garden Corps, as we learned, is an AmeriCorps program hosted by the Childhood Obesity Prevention Research Program at Arkansas Children's Research Institute. That's a mouthful.
That is a mouthful.
How did a research project turn into Garden Corps?
Sure. We were funded in a traditional
research study looking at the impact of school gardens on childhood obesity risk factors. It was a USDA funded study, and we built school gardens across the Delta. And as we started to really invest in those communities and those gardens, we realized that 1 year of funding was not enough, and that we needed to really address the need for full-time attention to launching those gardens in communities. And at the same time, we realized there was a huge need across the state. And so we approached AmeriCorps and our Arkansas Service Commission about supporting that.
Excellent. Arkansas Garden Corps is made up of 11 service sites across the state, and all of these focus on sustainable food production, but are the sites different?
The sites are different. Over the course of 5 years, we've supported everything from nonprofit organizations to municipal government to state agencies. We've worked with schools and school districts, and so they're all really different in the way that they deliver their nutrition education and the way that they distribute their food. But at the heart of it, they're all growing food, feeding people, and educating people about where their food comes from and how it impacts their body.
The individuals like the two young ladies that we met in the segment, they're AmeriCorps service members who are placed in these gardens. How are the individuals selected, and how is it determined where they will serve?
The service sites, which are the host organizations, apply to Arkansas Garden Corps through a competitive application process. And we select them based on their ability to host that member. We select them based on their kind of where they are in their process. They're ready to move forward. They're ready to launch to the next step. They've got some infrastructure, they have a garden, they have some ideas about what kind of programming they want to do, but they need some full-time investment. And so those organizations are selected, and then at the same time we have individuals across the state and across the country who apply, and then we match them, and the service sites ultimately select the most fitting applicant.
I want to go back to these numbers, very impressive numbers we're talking about. Since Garden Corps began, 68 individuals have served in 32 service sites at 18 different cities, resulting in 92,000 hours of work. And how are these different sites chosen to be a Garden Corps site?
We have, like I said, we have these sites who come to us, who apply to us and say, hey, we've got this garden program and it's kind of in its early stages, and we really want to move it to the next level. We really want an infusion of time and energy and capacity in order to move it towards sustainability, a sustainable program. So we work with them. They go through an orientation process with us. We help to mentor the service side over the course of their time with us, whether that's 1 year, 2 years. Some sites have been with us for 5 years. We work in one city, the city of North Little Rock, and they have community gardens across the city, like 20. And so we've continued to support them over the course of the entirety of our program, because they serve so many communities and so many gardens.
So if someone watching wants to get involved in Garden Corps, how do they get started?
We have a website. It's arkansasgardencorps.com. We've got applications to be service sites and to be service members, and you can always call me or email me.
Very good, excellent. Douglas, let's talk about the work that you and your colleagues are doing, spreading the word about sustainable food production at the Camp Mitchell Agricultural Program. The camp itself has been around a long time. How did the agricultural project evolve within the camp?
Well, it really started when some of our campers and camp staff started examining what's called the 5 marks of mission. And the Episcopal Church has 5 marks of mission, and those are basically just statements, as pretty broad statements as far as what our goals are in the community and in the broader world, what we're trying to do actually physically and communally in the world. And I think the 5th mark involves stewardship of God's creation. And so we really started taking that seriously, but in small steps. It started with just composting our kitchen scraps. And so every day after the meal, after dinner, we would take a big bucket of like cinnamon rolls and hamburger buns and leftover salad out and try and compost it. Eventually, the raccoons started getting into it, but, we made a pretty good amount of compost. And so then, we needed something to do with that compost, something to grow, so we started a few small raised beds. And you know, that led to someone donating a full-size greenhouse to us, and then slowly we've been trying to live into that greenhouse and make full use of it. And that's why I was hired on 3 years ago to direct a program that was going to focus on getting kids and any other visitors who end up at Camp Mitchell out in the gardens and involved in growing their own food and bringing it back into the kitchen and just sharing it as a community.
You have programs for special needs adults and youngsters. Tell me a little bit about those.
So our summer camp program starts at the end of May and it runs to August, and we have week-long sessions. Most of our sessions are for students, and we start in the 5th grade and we go all the way up to 12th grade. And those students also have the opportunity to come back and volunteer as, we call them counselors in training, because hopefully one day they'll apply to be an actual counselor at camp, you know, but if not, that's okay. But they still gain a lot of valuable life skills volunteering at the camps. And some other camps that we host that these kids volunteer for are some specialty camps. We do one camp for children with parents who have been incarcerated, and so that's a really special camp. We have a lot of fun, you know, giving those kids a really nice special week. And then we do 2 more special camps each year for adults with mental and physical disabilities. And so that's a really neat camp. And I really love that camp, getting those people out in the garden. They just have a blast, and it's amazing what they can do in a week's time in the garden.
We have just a few seconds left. Do you have many volunteer opportunities at the camp and at the farm? How can viewers learn more if they would like to volunteer?
They can contact me directly at farmdirector@campmitchell.org. Camp Mitchell also has a website. You can Google us, and I also run a blog for the Camp Mitchell Agricultural Program, and you can just Google that and find us there.
And lots of opportunities, so different jobs for volunteers.
Yes, sir. You can get involved in weeding, harvesting, even cooking and preserving some of our foods. Like yesterday, we made 5 gallons of kimchi. So
lots to do.
Yes, sir, as well as eating the produce.
Thank you both for being with us. We certainly enjoyed having you on the program. Hope you'll come back.
Thanks, Tony. Thanks.
And that's all the time we have for today. You can find past episodes of Agri Arkansas online at aetn.org/Agri Arkansas. And if you have story ideas, we'd love to hear them. Drop us an email at agra@aetn.org. We'll see you next time.
Major funding for this program provided by the Moving Image Trust Fund. Additional funding for this program provided by the Arkansas Agriculture Department.